We're here at the planet-wide Amateur Sumpball Championships. Teams have gathered from all over the top Sumpball feeder academies, and this Tournament of Champions is their chance to stand out. Professional contracts are on the line. I am here, your Scream Queen Emmy, reporting live from the field. We have a special live exclusive performance with Ghosts Don't Have Morals here for the opening ceremony.
Guys, I don't think I brought enough buckets for this. There is so much blood. Why do the young seem to bleed more?
You know, I've heard kitty litter really helps with that stuff.
Oh, yeah, but I think that's traceable. I mean, I wouldn't be concerned with that.
This is 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio, telling all you hive mice and sump ghoulies to keep that dial fixed right here. Same ratty frequency for the same ratty-ass attitude.
Yeah, the sump ball doesn't fit in the toilet holes, so don't even think about that one, kids. You can't get rid of your sump shame that way. We're gonna do our best without Chakra Goblin King for this one because of Freedom Day. We were all over the place, so you know we're doing our best. We're hanging in here.
Welcome to the second installment of our Innsmouth Compliance Day special, episode 118. Today we delve deep into the rich lore of the Magic the Gathering universe. Drew and I have a considerable challenge for you today. Both of us are a little too eager and a little too info dumpy, and we have, at this point, 31 years of Magic the Gathering history that we are going to attempt to condense into the next 50 minutes. So we're going to try really hard to stay on course, stick to the main story arc, not include any of the filler arcs or filler episodes, and get through the whole thing, only the anime canon and none of the side mangas.
That's right. We are starting. I think the thing that you suggested, Emmy, and I think it's a good idea, is for us to start off with just sort of establishing what the cosmology of Magic is like as a world. What does it like? How do the basics work there? You know?
Okay, so there's the way that I like to do any world building in any IP is answer the question: how is this world different from our own? The way that the Magic the Gathering card game has always been intended to be played is you are playing as a planeswalker. Drew, what's a planeswalker?
It's you. First of all, you're a planeswalker. You're a magic wizard who can travel between dimensions. So you can with just sort of like thought or instinct, you can just travel to different realities within the multiverse, the planes of the multiverse. So each level of existence, each dimension, as it were, is called a plane, and planeswalkers walk between them and then sling spells.
Yes.
And this includes yourself. The game of Magic the Gathering is a duel of planeswalkers.
That is correct.
Fighting wizards.
2 or more planeswalkers. And the way that planeswalkers cast spells is mana. Mana is located in the land on any given plane, and you tap your lands to produce mana. So whatever the land is on your plane, you are temporarily tapping that land for its magical power, essentially. And there's 5 different colors of mana so far. Who knows? We could find more, but we call them mountains, islands, forests, plains, and swamps. And sometimes we have lands that are a combination of 2 or more of those colors.
Yeah, so like each of the lands, a color is derived from each, and those each have like their own identity. And as Emmy says, eventually you can get spells that can combine colors, and then they have their own sort of like flavor and narrative identity as well. Every once in a while, you may hear us refer to a color combination as with a nickname, like Simic, which is my favorite combination, is blue and green. People give me a hard time for that all the time because blue and green is very good together. Um, uh, there's other combinations like the nickname for red and black is sometimes Rakdos. This refers to a specific group of people on a specific plane that exhibit that color combination, but we've sort of like as a nickname as a community, we oftentimes just now refer to that color pairing as that thing. The same goes for three color sets, and like we call the wedges and the shards. So there's things like Bant, which is white, blue, and green together. We call that Bant. And again, these are references to like specific like cultures or from different planes that use those colors primarily. And that's sort of like been a bit of the tradition. And Wizards has tried to rewrite what the color names are. Like later on, they've tried to get us to like associate it with new names, and it just hasn't worked. We're all old fuddy duddies, and we like our old names for things. But those are the basics. Basically, that like there's a bunch of different sort of like magical dimensions. There's Japantown. There's Christmas Town. I'm kidding. There's Viking Land, right? They all have like these different sort of like thematic and historical influences from them. But we're going to talk about like there's like a really long. So Magic has been around for 31 years, as you said, as a game, and the narrative itself is like goes way all the way back to the beginning, and sort of like there's been different iterations of the story, and it's appeared in different ways. And sometimes you have these great grand like year spanning arcs, and sometimes you have these little snippets of stories. But we're going to focus on like the big one as it is right now.
Yes. And I just want to, you're a planeswalker, you tap your lands for mana, and only people that are planeswalkers are able to go between the different planes because planeswalkers have what's called a spark that allows them to travel. There are ways that non-planeswalkers can traverse between the planes, but that comes way, 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 way down the line.
That
So
is like
let's
an exceptional
an
circumstance. Yeah.
exceptional circumstance. We're gonna try really hard not to get ahead of ourselves here. But yeah, where
Yeah.
does it all begin, Drew?
We can start at the beginning, which is allegedly. So this is because Magic has existed for so long. There have been so many different pieces of comic books and like novels, novellas, magazine articles, short stories. There's all these different like places where you can draw these little bit snippets of information from. And one of them is the oldest established culture that we have in Magic are the Equilorians. I didn't even know who they were until I started researching this. Apparently, at one point, Urza
Yeah,
just
I thought
says,
that
also, Equilorians are very old. I should mention who Urza is. He's going to be very important soon. But yeah.
yes, they really aren't talked about much, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're too consequential to the rest of the story. But
No.
Urza, he's a very important character. So
But he's inspired by a couple of groups.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, but in terms of like in world, right? Like
Okay.
out of world, he's very much he's like the Leonardo da Vinci Pope. But yeah, Urza, the sort of the genesis point for like the big story arc is the Fomori and the Thran, which are like these
Yes.
two ancient advanced civilizations. The Fomori come before the Thran. The Thran learn much of their technology from the Fomori. The Fomori don't get to be somewhat more important for another 30 years in terms of the history of the story. But right now, the Thran, for sort of like setting things up, they're kind of like Atlantis, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, they're definitely like Atlantean in a way.
They're like this hyper advanced technological society that lives in this like fantasy world on this planet called Dominaria. and they kind of ruled everything for a long time, and just kept getting more and more powerful until one kooky guy, one
Yawgmoth.
crazy, Yawgmoth, who is like their lead sort of like physician.
Hmm.
Um, he's obsessed with finding the cure for this disease called phyresis, which they've started to develop because their technology is doing it to this. Some weird radiation is coming off of their magic mana batteries, and it is making them sick. And he's been investigating ways to find solutions. And Yawgmoth is not what one would call ethical or a good guy.
No,
Uh,
not at all.
let's find Yawgmoth here.
Yawgmoth Thran Physician.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of Yawgmoth.
Yes, as absolutely. There he
He's a
is. There's the
dick.
boy. He is not a good guy in any way. As you can see
No.
from his outfit here, his weird like bondage outfit, probably not a nice man.
No.
Yeah, he looks like he's wearing human flesh or something. But the Thran basically put this guy in charge of solving this phyresis problem, and one day he stumbles across a planeswalker. He meets a planeswalker. Is it Dyfed? I believe it's Dyfed. And Dyfed takes a shining to Yawgmoth and is kind of interested in Yawgmoth, and so decides to show Yawgmoth, hey, look, there's other dimensions, dude. Like, you can go to other places. And Yawgmoth's mind is blown, and he takes him to a place called, well, it has no name. It's this like dead, lifeless planetoid that in the middle of this artificially created plane with a dead planeswalker who it takes on the form of a dragon at the center of it. And they go there, and he's like, look at, like, this place was like meant to be this like machine haven where like machines were like perfection. And Yawgmoth sees this and gets some ideas. He's like, wait a minute, that's neat. And he sort of decides that, hey, maybe this is a way to solve this phyresis problem. So he builds an artificial portal there using their advanced technology. This is not something that any other civilization could have done. And this leads to eventually to like a huge civil war within the Thran. And it ends with Yawgmoth and a bunch of his sort of like splinter group from the Thran civilization. They get trapped on Phyrexia, this dead, lifeless planet. There's like 800 people that all have varying degrees of this phyresis disease living on this planet, and the rest of the Thran get wiped out by like this like nuclear disaster. Was when the null moon crashes into. They have a space station called the Null Moon, and they crash it into the planet, and then as Yawgmoth escapes, and that's really
It's a
important
lot like,
because
honestly, if you know anything about Age of Sigmar lore, this reminds me a lot of the Skaven and their use of Warpstone, and they're trying to bring the Chaos Moon of Morsleib close to, oh my god, what is it called? Cripple Peak. Cripple Peak is sort of like where the Skaven planned to bring down the moon for their own nefarious purposes.
right. So in this case, like the Thran do it on purpose. They literally drop the Null Moon to try to stop Yawgmoth,
Yep.
because Yawgmoth is basically he starts using some of the technology from this plane that he is now calling Phyrexia to like artificially like turn these people into like basically like I don't know, like bioengineered horrors. But
Mhm.
he's like, look, I solved phyresis, and everyone's like, yeah, but you made horrible demon monsters. He's like, yeah, it's fine. So they it leads to this huge cataclysmic end where he and a bunch of people get stranded on Phyrexia for many years. And as it's happening, they're slowly changing into these horrible mechanical demons. But meanwhile, in Dominaria, after this sort of like, there's like a little nuclear winter and new civilizations spring up. And this is where we get to two very important people, Urza and Mishra, and sort of the
Ah,
introduction of the Brothers' War, right?
yes.
The Brothers' War is sort of like I think the biggest, it's like the first narrative that we get in Magic.
Mhm.
The very first expansion that we get after, um, Arabian Nights, which was like just a retelling of the traditional 1001 Arabian Nights stories, but like through the lens of magic. Um, we get one that's like a whole like original story for the first time. We had hints of it before, But Antiquities, again, like 28 years ago, is this set that sort of introduces concept of telling the story in snippets on the cards
Mhm.
themselves. And magic sort of evolved from there. But we learn about Urza and Mishra, who are two brothers who discover the remnants of the Thran's technology, and they accidentally
Right.
find and activate the portal to Phyrexia,
Phyrexia.
accidentally letting Yawgmoth and his buds out, which is not good.
Right. They're like students of the same archaeologist.
Yeah, and Phyrexia
Takasia.
took Takashi. So like
Takasia.
yeah, the Phyrexians don't look like that anymore. They don't look like people anymore. They look like this. These horrible like mechanical creatures that are like biomechanical creatures. They're like
Mhm.
a fusion of machine and living things. In Magic, for example, we do make a distinction between if things are artifacts or not. Interestingly enough, Phyrexians aren't artifacts; they are living machines. So they no longer count as machines anymore. They are their own thing, which is kind
Mhm.
of interesting. So yeah, the brothers are fighting this. The reason why they're fighting a war is ultimately very stupid. They're just kind of jealous with one another. They're both vying for power constantly, and Mishra is the one who ultimately sides with the Phyrexians throughout all this. The Phyrexians basically sort of like seduce him and are like, "Hey, wait a minute, let us out and come join us, and everything will be fine." Urza again realizes how bad things are because the Phyrexians are at this point very powerful, right? That's like having thousands of years to just be alone on this terrible plane and evolve into these terrible biological monsters. They're pretty scary. So Urza builds the Silex, the
Yes.
Golgothian Silex, and it's basically like a magical atomic bomb, and he sets it off and that kills most of the Phyrexians and closes the portal. But the actual Phyrexia itself is unaffected. It's just shut off. It can no longer access Dominaria anymore. And so he essentially delays the Phyrexian invasion, and Yawgmoth himself is still alive back on Phyrexia, but he has to, Urza kills his brother in doing this, and most of the like living civilizations on his home planet.
Mhm.
He survives the ordeal and becomes a planeswalker throughout as like part of this. Like his spark awakens when he takes these two powerful artifacts, the Might Stone and the Meek Stone, sticks them in his head, and so
Right.
he blows up the Silex and then f's off. Real cool dude. That is a real winner.
Right. And then he like founds a community college.
Yeah, so like Urza after this sort of like tours the multiverse.
Right. He goes and he does some stuff because now he's sparked and he's like, oh my god, I can just jump between dimensions of existence.
Yeah. So he just kind of cruises the multiverse for a while and just sort of checks things out and otherwise has a good time. But in the meantime, civilization restarts. There's a bunch of magic sets that are all about sort of recovering from the Silex blast. There's like the dark because now they're like giant like ash clouds everywhere, and then we get into like ice age, like literally like there's a thousands year long ice age that and humans managed to survive throughout, and we got all these little stories all throughout there. But what's important is we start learning about some of like the other parts of the world while this is happening. Like we learn about like the elder dragons. There's this race of ancient dragons that actually predate Urza and a bunch of other people that have been around for a long time. And they will feature heavily into things later. Dragons end up being sort of like a primordial, like important part of all of the planes. Like it's like typically the first expression of life is a dragon. And at this point, we sort of get hints that the very first dragons ever are one of them is Nicol Bolas, and you'll
Gotta
hear
show him the old school Nicol Bolas card because it cracks me up.
that. This name will be really important later on, but we
Yeah,
do
good old Nicky
establish
B.
Nicol Bolas. There he is.
Look at him. Look at that boy. I mean, you can see if you're watching this visually right now, you can see some of the more modern interpretations on that Google image results thing. He looks pretty cool. He looks pretty apocalyptic, but in his old illustration, he's pretty goofy.
He's just a
Um,
shriveled old man.
he's just a shriveled old man with bat wings
Yeah.
reading a book. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
He's fun though.
just to lay the groundwork there, we will come back to that because Urza is he's cruising the plains, and eventually he does make his way back to Dominaria, and he doesn't sort of like make himself known. Urza kind of does this like Odin thing for a while. He's like as a god walks amongst the people. Um,
Right.
One of the things he does note is that the after blowing up the Silex, the multiverse is kind of screwed. There's only like magic to explain why there's so few like planes in their like expansions early on in the game. They're like, oh no, it's because the multiverse is messed up. There's only 12, but eventually we do have a thing where what they call the mending, where they fix the
Right.
multiverse, and then we start to see even more planes of existence sort of beyond that,
Mhm.
right?
There's one where Hatsune Miku lives now. It's canon.
Yes, Hatsune Miku is also around. There's also like one of the sets we established very on is this thing called Legends.
Oh,
Legends is where the
yes.
Elder Dragons are from, but also it sets up a bunch of other sort of like things in the past. Like there's a character who ends up being somewhat important named Dakon Blackblade, who's like
Oh, of
this.
course.
Yeah, he's this cool knight with a really cool sword, and he fights Solkanar the Swamp King. Um, yeah, and also at the same time, like again, because magic is set on these different planes, and they've sort of added more history throughout the years. We also have a place called Ravnica around this time, sort of in the history. On Ravnica, there's this thing called the Guild Pact. So, like, Ravnica is this giant, the entire planet is one city, and the entire realm is one city, and it's densely packed with people from different places. And so to make it so that everyone gets along, they cast a magic spell that makes everybody get along, called the Guild Pact. Yeah, it's kind of
It,
weird.
it kind of works.
Yeah, it does.
Mostly.
It like as usual, like things always go sideways, like with these things. But yeah,
Can't have a
um,
story without conflict.
no, that is true. Like God, and this story goes places. Where are we? I've already lost myself in
All
terms
right.
of.
Let's talk about. I think the
Uh,
next big thing that we need to talk about is the Tolarian Academy.
oh, before we do need to establish that there are also planeswalkers named Soren, Ugin, and Nahiri. One of them is. It turns out Nicol Bolas has a brother who's just as old as him, named Ugin, who's his exact twin, except likes colorless mana and is working to fight against him. And he also knows that there's these cosmic horrors called Eldrazi, so he goes to this place. He goes to a couple of planes and warns some early planeswalkers, Soren and Nahiri, that the Eldrazi are coming. And then they build some cool pylons out of rock, and then that stops the Eldrazi.
Yes.
We'll come back
Yes.
to that.
Okay. Right. They make the Hedrons and the Hell Vault.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that.
Yeah. So to sort of fast forward to get back on to like the main story, what's going on with my dude Urza? You mentioned he starts a community college.
Essentially, it's a community college for wizards.
Yeah, it's
He's
called
got two
Tolarian Academy,
students
right?
that are kind of important. Their names are Teferi and
Mm-hmm.
also Joyra.
Yes, and also Karn,
Oh,
who
Karn,
is
his robot student.
yeah, he makes a golem, like basically a robot named Karn. That and Karn is a big part of this as well. There's some misadventures on apparently there's also like a Bollywood character named Karn. Um,
Oh, yeah, I think it's Kharn there.
yeah. Here's the character we're talking about.
He's
This
a
is
big robot guy.
Karn the Silver Golem. Yeah, he's a big robot. He at this point is basically just like a janitor, and like
Mhm.
Teferi and Joyra kind of like make fun of him and push him around. But one of the things that they're doing, at this stage in the game is Urza is experimenting with time travel to see if he can use that to maybe stop the Phyrexians, because he knows that they're going to come back at some point. And while he's doing this, things, of course, go sideways. The Phyrexians do figure out a way to start sending like agents over, sleeper agents, into the Tolarian Academy to try to like slow Urza down. And Urza basically screws up time a lot. He creates like a time bubble over Teleria in an attempt to stop the invasion from having to stop the Phyrexians. So he manages to stop the Phyrexians using his time magic, but then Teleria gets frozen in time, including Teferi, who's stuck in there in this time bubble as well. It's important because like these characters end up being huge parts of the story going forward, which is interesting because it's otherwise like kind of an innocuous thing. So they do that, and then Khorn, who is designed to travel through time, is the only one who can go into the bubble, and he goes and he rescues Teferi and Joyra, and in the process of which Teferi's spark manifests and he becomes a planeswalker. Joyra becomes immortal, and Khorn it becomes horribly emotionally scarred because he like killed some people and doesn't ever want to do that again. So yeah.
Right.
At the same time, like someone is like, I don't know, there's weird experiments. The academy seems like a good place. They're doing bad stuff at this academy.
Yeah, it's not great. It really isn't.
Lots of weird experiments.
Khorn kind of fucks off.
Yeah, so at this point, Urza kind of goes back to the playbook, and he's like, well, how are we going to defeat the Phyrexians? And this is sort of the start of the big plan, called the Legacy.
Yes.
Urza starts planning the demise of Yawgmoth by building like the ultimate weapon, which he refers to as the Legacy, which is a collection of really powerful artifacts that he's either found or created. And central to this is Khorn. Khorn is a big part of the Legacy. There's also a ship called the Weatherlight. The Weatherlight is also a big part of the Legacy. It's one of the central things. Is this cool airship? There we go. There's the Weatherlight. I love the Weatherlight. It's pretty neat.
The Weatherlight's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other part of this is that he starts this. This is where Urza gets real weird, and maybe a little bit like the Emperor. He starts a eugenics program to create the ultimate hero to like use the Legacy to defeat Yawgmoth. So he's
right.
He's Urza's playing 4D chess with this one. He's like he's planning the end of Yawgmoth like 10,000 years into the future. And we sort of like as a story, we kind of skip forward. A bunch of stuff happens, don't get me wrong, but in terms of like the Phyrexian invasion, we jump forward a little bit and way into the future. And the product of this eugenics program, this guy named Gerard.
Gerard.
Yeah, Gerard. He like lives with his father, and like part of this is they're actually meant to keep the legacy. They're like the legacy keepers or whatever. That's part of what they do. And Gerard has an evil brother named Volrath, and Volrath is jealous of him and steals a bunch of the legacy and then goes to another plane called Wrath. And it turns out that Wrath is part of a plan by Phyrexia to reinvade Dominaria. That Yawgmoth has had this plan all along to use this like special magic plane that's like it's like a bubble plane, and he figures he can like somehow make the plane overlap onto Dominaria using by
Venn diagram technology.
He like it's by increasing its mass with lodestone. Like it gets really, we really get into the weeds with this one. The whole point is he's got this whole like Rube Goldbergian machine to like reinvade Dominaria, and it involves Gerard, his evil brother, and a bunch of people that Gerard sort of like recruits to go on this flying boat.
Right.
This is the thing that we refer to as the Weatherlight Saga, and this is really where Magic starts to get like a comprehensive like ongoing narrative. Up until this point, it had like been bits and pieces. This is like when they do the Weatherlight Saga, this is the first time where Magic is like, we're going to have a story for each set and we're going to tell that story and it's just going to play out like in this way. That's where we start getting things like story spotlight cards and stuff like that, where these cards are meant to reflect particular moments in like a linear narrative that's told through the cards.
Right.
Yeah, so like Gerard has like a crew of like Squee. We talked about Squee
Oh,
in our
sweet.
Patreon.
Yeah. He's our
Squee's,
immortal goblin friend who
yeah,
just kind of default becomes king. He didn't really
yes,
want
yeah,
that, but it just happens for him.
yeah. So, yeah, he the nabob, and Squee becomes immortal because he has because of piece of the legacy. There's this thing called
Mhm.
Squee's
Squeeze
toy, which he like.
toy.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
falls in love with, and it turns out that thing is actually like has like an ancient spirit inside of it that's keeping him immortal forever. Um, So Gerard fights his evil brother named Volrath, and then like some stuff happens. They end up on a plane called Mercadia, and that's how Squee becomes king. There's a bunch of wacky
Mercadia
hijinks and
is so
adventures.
wacky.
Yeah,
Like, Mercadia is one single seaside cliff.
it's a big port. Yeah,
It's just a port. Yeah.
yeah. And you think there'd be lots of pirates? There are some, but
There's not enough pirates.
we do better pirates later on.
We sure do.
Yeah, so the whole point of this is it ends with they kind of screw around, and eventually Yawgmoth finally makes its final play. Urza, Gerard, and his team all kind of work together. They fire off the legacy the legacy weapon into Yawgmoth. All right, let's find the legacy weapon because that's an important
It's
one.
a good card. It's a great
Yeah,
picture, anyhow.
there we go. This
Yeah,
not
there we go.
this one. This
No,
one.
that's lame. The
Not that
OG.
one. Yeah, it's this one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There we
they
go.
use basically they use the Weatherlight and all of the artifacts on it to shoot pure white mana at Yawgmoth, destroying Yawgmoth, and yeah, that's that's how they end things. But in the process of which that kills Gerard and it kills Urza, and they take the two magical stones out of Urza's head and put them into Karn, and then Karn is the first artificial creation to ever get a spark at that point. So that's why Karn is so important. He actually becomes
A planeswalker.
yeah, he becomes a planeswalker,
Yeah.
and the first not living planeswalker. He's the first robot planeswalker. It's pretty neat. And
Only robot planeswalker?
he's the first, not the only. Wait, maybe I think he's the only one.
He is the only one. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as we know.
Yet.
Yeah, strange
Okay.
things have happened.
Let's talk about. Do we have to talk about Chainer?
No, yeah.
Okay.
So we can skip over. There's a section of like Magic history that I personally don't like the most, which is like the Kamal era.
Oh, yeah. It's stupid and not really relevant. We should get to Argentum.
Yeah, so essentially, the long and the short of it is, there's a whole series of stories basically around this like comic book hero-y kind of guy, Kamal, his sister, and a bunch of weird people who are obsessed with finding this thing called the Mirari. And then the story ends with Karn showing up and going, "Oh, that's where I left my dad's cool thing," and then he leaves. And it turns out this is where we find out what Karn has been up to, and that is he created this artificial plane called Argentum, and with the plan of like perfecting life, right? Because he's seen how things have gone wrong. He wants to do something right. But Argentum, not everything kind of works quite the way things should, and he leaves the Mirari on Argentum, and he turns it into this new golem called Memnarch, and he leaves Memnarch in charge.
Which was ultimately...
Yeah, it wasn't a good plan. Turns out Memnarch is he's a little Looney Tunes, and he transforms Mirrodin slowly, or Argentum slowly into Mirrodin, which is like this artificial plane. Like he becomes like obsessed with like adding life to it, but there's no native life on Mirrodin because it's an artificial plane. So they have to capture the souls of creatures from other planes, so that's eventually becomes there's like elves and angels and dragons and all kinds of stuff now on Mirrodin.
But they're all made out of metal.
They're all made out of metal, which becomes even more problematic because, as it turns out, Khorne, while he was traipsing around the Magic Lands, he had some black oil on his shoe.
Oh yeah, the Phyrexian oil.
Yeah, so some like contamination of Phyrexia still existed on him from when he fought the Phyrexians ages ago, and some of that corruption sort of like seeped out back into the plane of Mirrodin, and it grew 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 and sort of warped and mutated things, and then eventually we got
New Phyrexia.
new Phyrexia, baby. That's right.
We
Out
got
of all
the
of this,
Praetors, which
yeah,
are
out of
these
this,
horrifying metal Phyrexian constructs
yeah,
that take over. And yeah, the other interesting thing about the plane of Mirrodin is it does have 5 suns that all are the different colors of mana, and the plane is built in 5 spheres. But again, the whole thing becomes corrupted by Phyrexian oil, and we have 5 Praetors that emerge, each with their own kind of sun that gives them power. We have Shieldred, we have Vorinclex, we have Jin-Gitaxias. So they are the black, the green, and the blue magic, respectively. We have Urabrask, who actually ends up being kind of the rebel praetor, who is not really into this whole Phyrexian thing necessarily. And then we have Elish Norn, who is the sort of mastermind of behind all of this, and it is her goal to go out and invade every plane in the multiverse with her Phyrexian army.
yeah. So each of the Praetors is like supposed to be like the purest expression of the that color of mana, um, as warped by the Phyrexian oil. So like Elish Norn is obsessed with unity to the point where she's a tyrant, right? Whereas Jin-Gitaxias is obsessed with perfection to the point where he like corrupts and warps everything. Vorinclex is obsessed with like, you know,
Hunger and growth.
yeah, like, and like competition to the point where like he's like everything eats everything. Urbrask is just obsessed with like going against every kind of authority, and Shieldred is just obsessed with consuming her own to get stronger because she's a parasite lady.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like these forces become somewhat important as time goes on because Phyrexia right now, it's Mirrodin has become new Phyrexia. These Praetors have taken over and they have started changing the landscape again of Mirrodin to new Phyrexia. And Khorne is sad, and he just kind of like leaves it there in its state without any, and just sort of like, because there's no way for them to leave. So he hopes, well, I mean, this is a failed experiment, and he just kind of leaves it. But of course, things never quite go that way, do they?
No. And then after this, we take some kind of intentional diversions because there's other things that happen in the multiverse that are fairly important to what comes next. And we visit the plains of Zendikar.
Yes.
And we also visit the plane of Innistrad because there is this threat called the Eldrazi. The Eldrazi are essentially space squids, and they sort of come. There's this plane called Zendikar, and Zendikar has these floating land power structures called hedrons that keep the floating cities called the skyclaves suspended above the planet. However, the space squid people sort of emerge from what's called the roil, which is the roiling landscapes below, which is why people live in the sky. And they're like, give me all your money.
They are the whole thing with the Eldrazi is they are supposed to be like extra dimensional, like cosmic horrors, right?
Yes.
They're more powerful than anything. This was more powerful than anything we've ever seen. They can't be stopped. They can't die. They're extra dimensional. They're like big Cthulhu energy. And
Mm,
so, like up until this point, the whole thing is that the only way to stop them is to contain them, and that's why the royal exists on Zendikar, is because they are sort of like they're being contained by these things called the hedrons, right? The magical pylons we talked about that Ugin and Sorin and Nahiri made.
yes.
But that can't last forever, and they still have some amount of influence. So they managed to like disrupt the hedrons and get out, and then they have to the people have to punch squids.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the squids leave Zendikar, but the plane is not the same. Pieces of these cities called the Skyclaves kind of fall to the ground. The Phyrexian invasion of Zendikar may be over, but truly the planet almost never recovers. And Nahiri kind of watches this, and let's just say it alters her brain chemistry in a way that is unhealthy. But we'll come back
Yeah.
to that. Anyways,
It makes her very sad. But essentially, years later, a coalition of different magic users, different planeswalkers, gets together, call themselves the Gatewatch.
because of the
Gatewatch.
Seagate on Zendikar, yes.
Zendikar, yeah, and then they try to use the Hedrons to reactivate the Hedrons to get the Eldrazi out of there again. Does not go as planned, as usual, and they have
The
to do some
squid
others.
people unfortunately end up on the spooky classical horror plane of Innistrad.
Yeah. So like of the
But,
three squid people, two of them are sort of like knocked out of the game for now.
yep,
The one really scary one, which is
which is
Emrakul.
Emrakul, that's the picture that's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, she ends up going to the spooky, scary horror Dracula plane called Innistrad. But fortunately, there is a planeswalker there named Sorin, and he is a sexy vampire man. And he there's this artifact on Innistrad called the Hell Vault. And the Hell Vault is this large rock like thing. Yeah, there he is. Look at him. So brooding, so blonde and sexy. He's got that Homestuck cosplayer complexion.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's this artifact on Innistrad called the Hell Vault, and the Hell Vault can actually trap beings inside of it and kind of nullify their magic.
Hmm.
And fortunately, Emrakul ends up on the spooky plane, and they're like, well, we can stick her in the Hell Vault.
But that doesn't work out.
It
The Hell
doesn't work
Vault
out.
blows. Yeah, the Vault blows up. But also, it turns out that Nahiri had been in the Hell Vault, and she also didn't like that. And then also Nahiri planned all of this because she was mad at Sorin
Right.
for
Right.
sticking her in the Hell Vault. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
So,
like I don't know. Like I think this is another one of those places where like they don't stick the landing with the story a little
no,
bit in
no, they
Magic.
really don't.
It was really cool to be like putting Emrakul in like the like a classical like horror setting was really neat, but it gets confusing, weird, and basically it just ends with them trapping her inside the moon, and that's
Right,
it.
because one of the smarter and more capable planeswalkers called Tamio from the sort of like Japanese mythology inspired plane of Kamigawa, she is a moonfolk
Hmm.
and uses her story magic to trap Emrakul in the moon in Innistrad,
Hmm.
imprisons her in the moon, because her whole thing is she can listen to a story, record that story on a scroll, and then later sort of imitate the magical elements of the story in order to capture that magic herself.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens when she imprisons Emrakul in the moon. I see you're pulling up our man Tezzeret. Let's talk about where we go next.
Hold on. I want to show up. There we are. We're
Oh,
putting Emrakul on the
imprisoned in the
moon.
moon. There it
Yeah.
is. See, we've got our giant eldritch horror being. There's Tamio.
That's Nissa.
And yeah, only one
Nissa's helping
vault was great enough to hold Emrakul.
the moon.
The moon.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a cool enchantment. You can give it to a creature and sort of renders them
Mm.
essentially useless.
Yeah, we got to talk about this guy now. Tezzeret. Tezzeret is sort of like the reason why things go bad. Tezzeret,
He's a dick.
he's a planeswalker, and yeah, he's a butthole, and he kind of, this may sound familiar, but he is obsessed with improving his body with the mechanical perfection,
Oh
and
yeah.
he is from a plane called Esper, or he's actually from
He'd
a part of a
definitely
plane
be
called
part of
Esper.
Cult Mechanicus.
Yeah, he's a big cult mechanics energy, but he loves, and like he's in it for himself. So he something happens to him where he can't planeswalk anymore, or he has trouble planeswalking. So he goes to Kaladesh, which is the plane that is inspired by India, but has like really advanced technology.
Yeah, they
And one of
have
the
this stuff called the Aether, and it like gives energy and that powers all of their technology.
yeah
It's cool stuff. It's
yeah
all very like filigree.
yeah it's all like, yeah it's got like I don't know, like a steampunk kind of aesthetic to it. It's very cool.
Hmm.
Um, Tezzeret goes there because there's a thing called the planar bridge, which is one of the few pieces of artificial technology that will let you travel the planes. And he uses that, but unfortunately, the planar bridge is damaging to his body.
Yep.
So he decides to go to a plane where they will have the necessary skills and technology to fix him, and he feels like the best place to do that is New Phyrexia, because they know how to merge flesh and mechanics like no one else, and especially they have this stuff called dark steel, which is like this like super indestructible material. So he wants a body out of dark steel, and he goes to see the Phyrexians, and the Phyrexians say, "We will make you a deal. If you help us get off Phyrexia, then we will give you this body that you want." And he says, "No problem. I will do this." This is all in the wake of, we should mention, there's this thing called the War of the Spark, which is a big
Oh yeah.
storyline that happens somewhere in the background here where Nicol Bolas, the evil dragon, and
His
tries to
brother Eugene.
yeah, he tries to basically eat all the planeswalkers and become a super planeswalker, and they managed to stop him. And now Ugin and Nicol Bolas are trapped in a pocket dimension together, where Ugin is like
It's called
stopping
the
him from escaping.
meditation realm. It's like the
Yeah,
shadow realm, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Nicol Bolas has no memory anymore. That's a big part of it. Is they're suppressing his memory and his personality so that he won't do bad things again. In the meantime, Tezzeret takes the planar bridge, goes to New Phyrexia. New Phyrexians say, "Okay, fine, we'll do this if you'll help us get off of New Phyrexia." And he says, "Well, there's this weird place called Kaldheim, and there's this tree there, and this tree can reach into other planes. So maybe you can figure out a thing there." So they send Vorinclex, who's the Green Praetor, there to
to
steal
go get the sap. Yeah.
some sap from the World Tree. Yeah, absolutely. And then the next thing that happens is we go to Kamigawa.
Right. And Gataxius pops over there to go look at their technology because they're currently in what they're calling the Neon Dynasty. It's very, I don't know, it's very like 90s Gundam inspired at that
Yeah,
point.
because they have really advanced technology. The Blue Praetor, who's Jin Gataxius, who's obsessed with perfection, he goes there and he discovers that he can use some advanced technological techniques to essentially complete, which is their way of kind of like
Phyrexian
the
eyes.
Phyrexian. If you've ever watched Star Trek, it's like being assimilated by the Borg. It's the same kind of thing where they turn you into a cyborg and like control your brain. Um, you know, It's not good. It's supposed to like destroy your soul.
Mhm.
Um,
And he does that with Tamio, who recently kind of saved the day and stuck Emrakul back in the moon.
yeah.
And
So
she's
he like
effectively dead, and everyone's very sad about this.
yeah. He she yeah she she's a well loved character. I really like her too.
Mhm.
Um, and so she is sort of like the test case for this, and this is sort of like the big jumping off point where they realize that like they can combine all of their plans, and Elish Norn, who's the white magic praetor, sort of like finally puts everything together and launches this huge invasion of the multiverse using their own version of a world tree, so that they clone the world tree and turn it into this thing called Realm Breaker. And Realm Breaker kind of like opens portals all across the multiverse, and that lets the Phyrexians invade everywhere, which is a
Mhm.
big problem because the Phyrexians
Yeah,
are bad and just want to turn everybody into terrible mechanical monsters.
but then our dryad friend Ren.
Yeah, whose whole thing is like she can bond with trees, and that's how she lives. Is she's a planeswalker that bonds with trees. She ages out of the trees because she lives forever in the trees. Eventually, sort of, she moves on. So she bonds with Realmbreaker, um, sort of like in their this like last ditch attempt to try to stop them from doing this. And while this is also happening, some of the new planeswalkers built a copy of the Silex from way back at the very beginning when we were talking about Urza. The Silex is like, like that magical like atomic weapon.
Right, they go back in time at one
Yes.
point to kind of figure out what Urza did and figure out how to detonate it.
Yeah. So they do that, and they're basically at the tree, and they're about to set off this bomb, and then someone says, "Wait a minute, maybe this isn't such a good idea." The last time this happened, it was not only was it like apocalyptic for the planet, but it was apocalyptic for like the entire multiverse, right?
Mhm.
And somebody said, "Yeah, but it's our only choice." And just as this happened, that like that person was killed, and like they got sucked away into like what we call the blind eternities, which is like
Mhm.
the space in between planes. And as
Mhm.
she did that, she set off the Silex as that was happening. So there's like instead this atomic weapon went off in space, and they didn't know what was going to happen there, right? Like that this has never happened before. And it has some pretty far-reaching consequences, as we're going to find out. So the world tree, instead of getting blown up, Ren has to bond with it instead, and then uses that to convince the world tree to start helping them, or rather, convinces Realmbreaker, excuse me, to start helping them, which is kind of cool. And when she does that, like there's this moment where Realmbreaker can reach into a place and a time that they didn't think was possible. And remember, we talked about the time mage, Teferi.
Mhm.
All of his people are trapped outside of time, in like this like weird, again, in this sort of like time bubble. And uh, he he
He's
says,
able
"Well,
to
what if
do the old switcheroo.
yeah, like what if we go get my people there and bring them to the future to help fight, and then we can send Phyrexia back there." So they do that. That's like the neat trick that saves the day is they bring Zalfir back out of this time bubble, and it turns out they're kind of like they end up being kind of a little bit like Wakanda, right? Like they're like this, like
Mhm.
they've been in this time bubble for so long that they're like all they've had to do was like time to prepare for this fight, right? So like
Mhm.
their soldiers are the best, and they have like really advanced technology and stuff like that because they've been preparing for this for so long.
Mhm.
And so they help with the fight, and then they get everybody off of Phyrexia, and then they send Phyrexia back in time to this time bubble where Zalfir was, and now it is trapped there forever, and it gets cut off. And when that happens, all of the Phyrexian machines, all of the multiverse, all of a sudden shut down because they're not being. It turns out they need like central communication with Phyrexia, or they just don't work. So there's this huge invasion event that happens where like all of these planes get like the start of these invasions happen, and then they manage to like save the day at the very last minute. And that was actually like the last that was like the conclusion of like a decades long story
Yes.
that we got and that happened just last year, which was really exciting. Yeah. So that was I mean that's pretty much the end of the
Phyrexian arc.
story. Yeah. Yeah.
And the next year or so, it's kind of it's sort of setting up what is going to happen next.
Yeah.
And so a big consequence of what's happened at the end of the Phyrexian invasion is many of the planeswalkers are completed, otherwise are unalived. But essentially, there's a lot fewer planeswalkers, and many of the planeswalkers kind of lose their spark in the attempt in the Phyrexian invasion. So,
And it turns out that the Silex exploding in space had some kind of effect on a bunch of planeswalkers and their sparks. It hasn't been
yes,
fully explained, but there's some suggestion that had some ramifications
right.
that they don't necessarily understand.
And so there is this one planeswalker from Ravnica named Ral Zarek. And Ral is like, hey, why don't we start making some kind of like interstate highways between dimensions, and we'll call them the Omen Paths. And the Omen Paths, the construction starts.
And the Omen Paths exist because now the multiverse is kind of like Swiss cheese because of Realmbreaker, right? Like Realmbreaker opened all these portals, but they didn't close. The portals are all still open. So like now you can literally, if you go, you can walk from one dimension to the next if you know where these portals are. And part of Ral's plan is to sort of like string all these together. We sort of get this story kind of laid out to us over kind of slowly, a little meandering over the last year, where they introduce this like kid named Killin.
Yeah, I call this Killin Takes a Walk.
Yeah, and he basically pops around to a different few locations. But the long and the short of it is we come back to Ravnica, and Ravnica basically they're planning on, they want to monetize. They're like, hey man, the internet, we can make lots of money off this thing. Same sort of thing, like Omen Paths, we can make lots of money off this thing. So that's what they're working on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, there's this blue wizard named Jace, who was he was an important part of the last story. He was the one who said, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't set off the Silex. Maybe that's bad." And he was probably right, to be fair. But he was also at the time completed and kind of part Phyrexian monster. He manages to
unphyrexianize himself basically through pure willpower.
Through the sheer power of being fucking awesome. He wills the black goop out of him and heals himself.
He gets his special snake wife all ungooped as well.
Yeah. And they get together and go like, wait a minute, maybe we can do something about how messed up the planes are. Maybe we can fix this.
But also, I want a baby.
Yes, also, I want a baby, but we can't conceive naturally. We know because we've tried. Yes, this is an actual line in the story.
That's right. The man and the snake have been hitting it raw, and it turns out that their interspecies relations cannot get the snake pregnant.
Yes. Here's an actual picture of them. This is them healing after after being Phyrexianized. This is them on Vryn in the story.
Right. Vryn is Jace's home plane. We don't go there often.
No, we don't know much about it other than just Jace is from there, and people don't like him there.
Jace's mom is there. Yeah, she's still around.
So Jace and Vraska are cooking up this plan to save the multiverse, but they haven't let us in on exactly what that means. And everyone else is kind of out to get them because they're essentially criminals to everyone else.
Yes, they spend some time on the cowboy plane picking some stuff up, though.
Yes, that is where they meet their new adorable sidekick, Loot.
And son / sidekick.
yeah, this is their new. This is this is the Baby Yoda of magic, as people like to call it. Look at this cute little fan art here. Oh,
Aw,
oh,
that is cute. Oh, that's adorable.
yeah, the Omen Pass ring. This is the best one, I think, that shows them all together.
Oh, that's
This
pretty
one's so,
adorable.
yeah. We're like, yeah, so now they are loot. They go to the cowboy planet, and on Planet Cowboy, there's they do a bank heist, and it turns out inside the bank was this cute little fuzzy guy, and he is like a map of the multiverse, which is what they
Mhm.
needed, so they could use the Omen paths to get around instead of just planeswalking, because Vraska can't do that anymore. Only Jace can, because he is again so fucking awesome. He got to keep his spark, and again, they're cooking up some plan. We just don't know what it is. So now we've just gotten into what they call like the Dragon Storm arc. We don't know what that means, but we know
There
that for
are
some
cute
reason
animals involved.
there are cute animals and dragons. Apparently, dragons appearing in other planes is probably a problem. And yeah, I don't know. We have
Yeah,
no
at the
idea what's
end
going
of
from
our
here.
last story, our little adorable frog wizard says that the Dark Kings will rise again and the Mage in Blue will end it all.
Yeah,
There's been a lot of speculation because there's a lot of potential interpretations of, there's always vague prophecies being extolled by toads in fantasy media. And there's a lot of things that could mean. And we've
yeah.
seen some dragons, and that's quite
We
interesting.
yeah, so far the first story doesn't really let us in much, other than we get that little prophecy, and we know that the dragons are showing up on other planes, and oftentimes when that happens, things go sideways, and that is the case here as well, where we visit this plane, but the dragon's presence there kind of messes things up a little bit, which is kind of cool.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
And
there's a lot
Ralph,
more.
our capitalist interstate highway builder guy, he's
Mhm.
after Jace and he is in pursuit. At this moment, he is not feeling friendly towards Jace. He's feeling quite hostile, in fact.
Mhm.
He's quite upset that Jace and his snake GF have made off with the map to the multiverse.
Yeah, 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 and just otherwise does a lot of like
I'll get
fist
you,
waving.
Jace.
Yeah, Chase. Yeah. So we have no idea. All we know is the next setting is the next plane that they're visiting is called Duskmorn, and it is an
Ooh,
entire plane of existence that is one giant haunted house. That sounds really cool.
spooky
I
times.
Yeah, and is inspired by like 80s
80s, like
horror
paranormal
tropes.
horror. Yeah.
Yeah. So like there's a card that's like basically the video cassette from the movie The Ring. It counts down from 7 and then it kills you. It's very funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've got some of our beloved, like, high fantasy type characters in, like,
Mhm.
puffer vests and fanny packs.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Things are getting weird in Magic. We're getting Marvel pretty soon.
Mhm.
I don't know. We still love it. Still love the story. I'm really curious to see where this is going.
Me too.
And I look forward to whatever, finding out who the kings in the dark are, and is Jace really going to end things? I don't think he's going to. I think I'm looking forward to whatever comes next with Magic. But yeah, that was really cool. Well, should we thank the people for listening? Thank you, people, for listening. We don't
Yes,
normally. This is weird. We need Goblin King to say goodnight.
we
We don't
do.
have a poem prepared.
Ghosts Have No Morals did a really, really great show at the opening games of
The Sump Ball,
Stump Ball.
the Amateur Sump Ball Championships.
Yep, absolutely. There was a Sump truck show. We watched a gravedigger jump over a couple of school buses.
Yeah, I don't know how they got that mining vehicle in here, but good for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a
Where
ship in
there's
a
a will, there's
bottle.
a way. Exactly.
Truly.
Thank you very much, everybody, for listening, and have a wonderful evening if you're listening to this at night.
Yes.
How does that work?
You can find us on TikTok, Instagram. You can join our Discord. It'll be linked in the show notes. And if you want to give us some of, but not all of your money, we do have a Patreon. We did an entire Patreon exclusive episode comparing the fantasy tropes of Age of Sigmar to the characters and fantasy tropes present in Magic the Gathering. If this type of thing interests you, also, if you'd like to watch the video version of the podcast, you can support us for $3, $6, or $9 each month. Peace and blessings to you and yours. Happy Compliance Day.
Happy Compliance Day to everyone.
Yes, may the four-armed emperor bless you.